Hello everybody, welcome to Our Culture. I'm Scott, joined by Josh.
Hello, Scott.
Joshua friend, we've just came out of Thor, Love and Thunder. Check out our spoiler review. It's hopefully on the channel by now, because we're going to dive into the post-credit scenes. So obviously spoilers as we break these things down. Now, there's not that much going on, but we'll do them in order. The first thing to talk about is the fact that Zeus is essentially doing a heel turn. However, I don't have that much comic book source material to draw from, so that might be just the way he's supposed to be anyway. But the character in the movie overall seems to be a very fun-loving kind of comedic character, until Thor shoots him through the stomach with his own lightning bolt, and then we don't see him again. It's assumed that he's dead until this scene, and this scene shows him sort of sitting back up, swearing that he's going to take down Thor, Odin's son, and then saying, "Don't you agree?" as the camera cuts around, and then we reveal Hercules, played by none other than Brett Goldstein, who is from Ted Lasso.
Dude, this popped me silly. I like all the way throughout the movie, you know, we've had like hints that Hercules exists in this world. You know, when they go to see Zeus, they mention Hercules outright. However, we don't see him in the movie. So all the way through, you're like, is he going to show up? Have they cast him? What have they done with his character? And then when you get the reveal that it's Brett Goldstein looking ripped to shreds, man, in that costume, like, I love that, because if you've seen Ted Lasso, which the actor is like most known for, it's such an insane thing to see Roy Kent, who he plays in that show, like this really angry kind of ex-footballer, now be in the MCU. Like, there's no doubt story implications to that scene,
right?
But just seeing that actor in that costume, I'm not gonna lie, Scott, it gave me an immense kind of feeling of, that's crazy. I want to see what they do with that next.
The thing is, I think we should talk about the wider way that they're revealing this stuff. I feel like, you know, the Eternals was just like, here's Harry Styles doing some stuff, and then Doctor Strange was like, here's Charlize Theron doing some stuff, and then now it's like, here's Brett Goldstein doing some stuff, and I don't know, that doesn't really do it for me that much anymore. I kind of don't, and we talk about this in the spoiler review, but I feel like the way that Marvel are organizing their movies, it's not so much this long-form storytelling thing of everything driving towards one singular goal. And I know that the whole Thanos thing was kind of just put together as they went. There's a whole bunch of inconsistencies if you go back to those older movies, and proving that wasn't the goal from the very beginning for all 10 years. But at the same time, once it started being that we're all, you know, going towards Infinity War and Endgame, they started planning the post-credit scenes around that stuff. Right. And that's kind of not necessarily what they're doing anymore, or at least it doesn't feel like that. It sort of feels like each individual character is kind of just getting something else for that set of characters to deal with in whatever the next movie is going to be. And I think that's an overall way that they're shifting their structure as the MCU, as a series of Marvel movies. But in terms of the characters that are getting revealed, I don't know who this... I know Hercules, but I don't know the dude. I don't know who Clea is when she turned up in Doctor Strange. It's like, I don't know what your overall thoughts were. It's more the actor, I guess, that gets the reaction these days.
Certainly. I mean, I think that's a good point to make. You know, it is the actor more than the character. And maybe you could argue that's because just from the sheer amount of things that Marvel have adapted now, they don't have those iconic or at least mainstream recognized characters to pull from. So it is the actor that's doing the heavy lifting. Like you said, Charlize Theron, and now even Brett Goldstein, who obviously isn't an A-lister, but has a lot of love on the internet and has that kind of cult following, so people will recognize who he is. However, when it comes to introducing those characters and them being more obscure and you not having that kind of knowledge to pull from, I don't mind that so much, and I'll tell you why. Because when the Avengers came out, I was there day one. I used to think of myself as a big superhero fan, and I waited for that post-credit scene, and when Thanos turned around, I was like, Who is this dude? Who is this guy? And I was looking around at my mates and I was like, oh yeah, this guy,
can't wait for that guy.
Oh, he's in the comics. He's really good.
My God.
So that meant nothing to me at the time. However, over the years, obviously they built Thanos up, and now he is one of the most, you know, widely recognized characters of all time. So I'm not against them introducing people that you don't immediately recognize in these post-credit stingers, because ultimately I have to have the faith that they will eventually build them up when they get the spotlight on them properly, and they will become, if not another Thanos, certainly, you know, on the level of one of the heroes, Ant-Man, you know, Winter Soldier, all of that stuff.
Hopefully. We'll talk about the post-credits, because this is the mid-credit scene. We'll talk about the post-credits in a little second.
Yes.
But the thing with the Thanos comparison is interesting, because I feel like as this Phase 4... We're in Phase 4.
We're in Phase 4.
Draws to a close, I feel like so many of the movies and the TV shows that have rolled out across this phase, just the sheer reality of it, have been, you know, addled by the pandemic, which is just a reality of production that Marvel have had to sort of deal with and reshuffle the cards and reshuffle the way that things roll out. And I just wonder if this is the overall plan, try and find someone that you can pin a long form story onto, or whether we are just going to kind of keep getting these reveals where we react to the actor and we go, well, I hope that's worth something in the future,
right.
As opposed to, Avengers was back in like 2012 or whatever, and as soon as Thanos was first introduced, that initial design was changed, and all of a sudden you got the proper version that started turning up in other post-credit scenes, with him just saying, okay, I'll do it myself and whatever, and they built it up more specifically. I just kind of wonder if they're ever going to do that again.
I mean, it is a question. I think they're going to have to, because just from a anecdotal look online on like Reddit threads for the Marvel Cinematic Universe and stuff, in our comments section alone, you see a lot of people kind of wondering when is the next big thing. Like, what is that going to be? We want to get back on this ride to build up to something as monumental as the Infinity Saga did. So I think they will get around to it at some point. But like you said, with a bunch of iconic characters leaving, Cap, Iron Man, etc., they're now introducing, like a lot of new blood. We've got, with a lot of great actors like Jonathan Majors, who made his debut in the Loki TV show, and now we've got Brett Goldstein, Charlize Theron, all of those people like you mentioned. However, going back to the scene itself and what it means for the future of Thor before we move on, do you think this is, well, let me ask you this, is it something you want to see them follow up on? Like Zeus and Hercules being these wrathful gods going after Thor? Right. Or would you rather them Mordo it, for lack of a better term, and kind of just push it aside in the next movie and be like, remember that post-credit scene? That actually didn't really amount to too much.
I would love the MCU to mean something again. That's what I would love for them to do. One of my biggest issues with the movie overall is that you have that scene where he's first in Omnipotent City and he takes out Zeus as he's talking about the fact that, the gods, maybe we have lost our way, maybe we should be better overall, which is also a thematic in God of War, which also involves Thor losing his way. And so I kind of thought they would do something with that in the movie overall. So I wonder if that is the trajectory for the character. If like they're setting up this idea of him passing the mantle down to Gor's daughter, who he sort of adopted by the end of the movie, or maybe are doing something with Jane Foster. We'll get to her in a second. But yeah, I just want Thor to be rounded out. My favorite version of the character is the one that was rounded out in Infinity War. I love that scene where he sort of breaks down and you get that side of him that acknowledges the amount of people he's seen lose that he was close to. I think you do something with that.
Totally.
You make the Thor comedic stuff a facade and you flesh out underneath until that becomes the real Thor.
I'm derailing the entire post-credit video right now, but
do it.
Are the fans going to be pissed off at the scene where Korg is retelling what happened in the previous movies, and you get to the three warriors killed in Thor Ragnarok, who I can't even remember the names of, but they were Thor's best mates in Thor 1 and 2, and they're discarded, and one of the big criticisms of that movie was that they were just discarded, and here Thor's like, and that guy's dead,
anyway,
yeah, that's what I mean. It is that, like, will that be viewed kind of like the Luke Skywalker lightsaber over the shoulder moment of like, I don't care what you think. I don't know.
Thankfully, it's not. I don't think it's on that level because it's not been building that much. But I do agree. If you've been trying to keep track of all this stuff and you want Thor to matter more, if you're an avid Thor reader, then you will know Lady Sif and you will know the rest of those characters and you will want them to mean more. I took that as just them kind of semi-acknowledging the reality that they've messed up in the past and those characters don't mean more. Obviously, Lady Sif turns up in the Loki show, which is kind of cool to see. Jamie Alexander once again coming back in this movie, but at the same time I kind of took that as a weird wink and nod, but I did have the same reaction you just did where I was like, that could have been done better. Thor should mean more. I think that's the thing. We talked about this in the spoiler review, but Thor as a character portrayal here is all over the place, has to supplant all sorts of different tones and has to sort of just ping pong around to whatever the script is going for in that particular scene. It doesn't really have a through line human underneath it all, or a god or whatever, like a consistent portrayal. We can use this to go into the Natalie Portman stuff though, which is to say that character dies at the end of the main movie, Jane Foster, and then turns up in Valhalla in the post-credit scene with Idris Elba reprising Heimdall once again. What were your thoughts on this, sir?
It was for me, it kind of worked as a nice epilogue. It wasn't what I expected the post-credit scene to actually entail, because we do see in the actual movie itself, obviously when Jane Foster dies, her kind of golden ashes are kind of like spread to Valhalla. And the assumption there is obviously that she died a warrior's death, like and Odin. That they will eventually, exactly like Odin, and that Thor and Jane will meet again in the afterlife. However, that said, it was nice to kind of like see that like in the flesh and what Valhalla looks like, and also it was good to see Idris Elba back as Heimdall, because his like shadow actually looms quite large over this movie. Like a lot of the film kind of like is about his son. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I suppose not a lot of it, but his son plays a central figure in kind of communicating with Thor when when the children are taken away. So it was nice to see kind of him at least be in the film when his legacy is such a part of the main story.
Well, there's a lot of like talk of sort of parenthood and legacies and passing the torch to the next generation and things like that. And Heimdall's son is shown training at the very end of the movie. Like I said, we have Thor adopting Gor's daughter as potentially a character going forward, maybe someone from the comics that I don't know about. It feels like they are sowing the seeds for what could come next, and what we do see on screen after the scene with Natalie Portman and Idris Elba is Thor will return. Doesn't say Mighty Thor, so I'm assuming Chris Hemsworth yet again.
I have just had a thought.
Go on.
I have a thought about what this might mean, and this might be me reading into it far too much, but if we look at the first post-credit scene with Zeus and Hercules, and they're talking about getting revenge on Thor. Is it possible that in the next Thor movie we actually see Zeus and Hercules somehow storming Valhalla to bridge the way to the afterlife and taking the fight there? Because obviously that's going to mean so much to Thor and the other Asgardians, with it being their entire afterlife, what their worldview is being built around. I don't know, it's just something mad that I kind of came up with. Is that a way to then see the likes of Heimdall, maybe even Odin again, and of course Jane, and include them in the next movie, even though they have all been killed? I'm not sure if they'll do that.
That'd be a cool way to go. I think that obviously, Zeus talks about, no one fears us anymore. We need to do something to make sure that people don't worship superheroes. They want to worship gods. If they did something where they took over Valhalla, make it so the comfort blanket of going to Valhalla, if you are a decent warrior or whatever, is removed, then maybe that puts the impetus back on the agency of the gods. Because I feel like their portrayal of the gods in this, whether it's the scene at the very, very beginning with Gore talking to the sun god, or whether it is when they come face to face with Zeus, there is a lot of don't meet your heroes, the reality of worshipping someone or comparing yourself to someone, and all you need is yourself. That's very much what's reflected within Thor. And so for me going forward, I just want them to do a really solid Thor movie. I don't need necessarily the wider extraneous stuff. I think they need to write more as Thor as a character. I thought that's what was coming through in Infinity War, and it's kind of in here, but not fully.
Is it kind of nuts that we're 4 Thor movies in now, and you're saying, like, please just make a Thor movie, a focused Thor movie where we actually kind of get more of him as a character?
That his best scene is not even in a Thor movie, that it's in Infinity War.
I will leave that for the spoiler discussion.
We will refer to our spoiler discussion, which should be online by now. But let us know what you think down in the comments below of the post-credit scenes for Thor: Love and Thunder. For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
I've been Josh from WhatCulture.com.
And we'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.